Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
Literally a guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible to say the least. You see that Putin still lead. 1.5 seconds. DRS is the name.
Alright then, here we are. Welcome everyone and a very good evening to PSGL F4, where tonight, after a week break, we are back with round 4 as we're heading to Las Vegas. The F1 circuit was there last weekend. Tonight on PSGL, we're going to do that all over again, and I'm quite excited for that. I'll be your host for tonight. My name is Mitsky, and I'm joined here together in the commentary box by Zataxter. What's up, man? How are you doing?
Oh, hey everyone, and yeah, hello, Mit. It's been a week's break, and I couldn't wait to get things going once again. And to get things going at somewhere like Las Vegas is just what we need to resume the season. So I'm excited as always, on the edge of my seat. Can't wait to get some racing going.
I definitely cannot wait either, but as you can see the calendar on the screen, I think it is good to first do a little bit of a throwback to Hungary, because there was one post-race penalty applied, which does affect the standings a little bit. If you go to the results screen, as you can see on the screen now, there were no changes in our top 2. So Simone Violo keeps his race win, also picks up the point for fastest lap. So 16 points for him, 12 points to Jeremy Gallinier, and then it is... Oh wait, I think Kuba got the point for fast lap, my bad. Kuba has inherited P3 for Gordon N'Golo. He's picked up a penalty. He drops from 3rd to 6th for his collision with Joris Kruse. Was on his way to victory until being tapped from the back, so he was definitely not happy with that. Due to the penalty, Joris now moves up to 4th, 5th place, went to Toppe, and then the top 10 rounded off by Balen de Lekes, Noel Carmen, and Emil Lundell, and Elliot Noren also. So both of the Alfa Romeos picking up the final few points. So those were the results from Hungary, but it was quite an exciting race, wasn't it?
Yeah, surely enough. I mean, as always here in PSGL in general, and to this particular tier's credit, I think we get to see that level of wheel-to-wheel action every now and then, and Hungary was just along the same. And yeah, we got to see some of these drivers be quite aggressive, get their elbows out. So heading into somewhere like Las Vegas, I think we're going to see even more of that, especially at the end of those penultimate and final corners of this circuit. So yeah, I'm just excited to get going. We have shock qualifying to start things off, and looks like we'll be seeing a couple of cars come out onto the track soon enough.
Yeah, let's go to our in-game view so we can see everything. So 18 drivers that are out there on the track. We've had a swap. Kilian Racek from McLaren has dropped out, has stepped down, so that Javier Domin will take over his place. We also have a couple of substitute drivers coming in. Harry Nuns, I believe, is one of them, who's stepping in. And let's see, is there another name? Well, I don't recognize the name of Harlem, but I think he's just changed his name, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, sure enough. Some of these drivers, however, are coming back once again. Most of the drivers are coming back once again. Really cool to see 18 drivers for today's race with 18 minutes shock qualifying. It's going to be stellar to see these drivers set their fastest laps. Of course, the first couple of laps are just going to be a couple of laps that when they get their elbows out, clearly push their cars to the limits, really search for the limits of the track itself. I think last time out we got to see the Alpine drivers lock out the front row, if my memory serves me right. So it'll be interesting to see how some of them do on this qualifying session. Populated track already. Everybody wants a piece of the action in Las Vegas in shock qualifying.
Yeah, we're now on board with Jeremy Gallinier, who picked up P2 in the last race. Of course, his teammate leading the championship, Joris Kruse, will zoom in to the championship standings in between qualifying and the race to give you a bit more information on that. Alpine's doing quite good so far this season, also well ahead in the constructor standings. And as we look at the track now, being here at Vegas, the drivers are making their way down the Las Vegas Boulevard. It's a fairly long track, 6.1 kilometers, 3.8 miles. Before we had a race in 82, I believe there were 2 editions of the Vegas Grand Prix back in the 80s. And of course we had our race on this track the first time last weekend, where we had some pothole incidents in qualifying, or in free practice 1. We've had some action, well, not that many surprising things happening in quali. Of course, we saw the crash with Lando Norris quite early on, so let's hope that the drivers don't clip any bumps as they make their laps round. And we're now going to go on board with Jeremy to see how fast he can take on the Vegas track.
Yeah, peculiar ones in the past, the Vegas tracks themselves. One of them being, of course, in the parking lot of Caesar's Palace. Would you look at that, like the parking lot of a hotel ended up being a Formula 1 track back in the day, but now we've got a stunning track which Jeremy is clearly flying through as he comes through Sector 1. I wouldn't say tricky part as much as Sector 2, surely enough, is much more challenging for some of these drivers. No particular places to really pull off an overtake as such. You'll have to wait and bide your time to Sector 3, unless you are as ambitious as some of these drivers do end up getting. But yeah, tail end of Sector 1, purple sector for Jeremy. He's heading into Sector 2. He's going to get that nice run up, the big straight. DRS is well, almost overshoots it into that wall. How he saved that, I am left scratching my head. But somehow he keeps it on track. If that would have costed him any amount of time, we'll find out. But his lap will be the one that will dictate the pace for now in the early minutes of qualifying. Purple Sector 2 as well as you'd expect. But yeah, he almost overshot it into Sector 2.
Yeah, got real close overshooting it here, but definitely maximizing his track efforts as well as in turns 15, where he took the curbs and did not pick up any track limits whatsoever, coming around the final corner now, which has the lovely name of Top Golf because the golf track is situated over there. And he picks up his first lap with a 1:30.9, and with that, it's about 2/10 quicker than Javier Domin in P2, but it's Joris's teammate who immediately goes a little bit quicker, just about 0.05 of a second. So it already shows there is some time for improvement as Matthew Bassett now goes quickest with a 1:30.8. But yeah, the Vegas track, I mean, it's received quite a bit of, not throwbacks, but a lot of criticism for being hosted in a place where everything really is expensive, where everything really is just for the show. Thankfully, last weekend we did see a really good race and something that we can look back on with a lot of action, a lot of unconventional overtakes as well. Let's not forget the overtake that Max managed to pull on George Russell, which did result into contact in a safety car, which is right over here where the drivers are now appearing, the end of Sector 2. A lot of action that can happen around this track. Couple of overtaking opportunities, most that you will find down the long back straight where it's really easy to overtake, and we saw that in the race as well, with this race being the second, having the second most overtakes throughout the entire season, only behind Zandvoort. But that was a wet race, so for a dry race that is very, very impressive. Meantime, most of our drivers have set their laps. It's Kuba up ahead, so I'll just go on board with Kuba.
Yeah, clearly proved the haters wrong at the end of the race in Formula 1. And I don't think any one of these drivers are real haters of this track here today out on track. Kuba, as we ride on board him. He's been an interesting driver in this tier, I'd say. I think in qualifying, he's probably a bit on the back foot. And in the race itself, he fights off in the midfield. We've seen him come closer to the top 5. So much so that the last couple of laps, when opportunity comes his way, he will take it as you'd expect. But he has abandoned that lap by the looks of it.
Yeah, it does look like that a little bit. Let's see if Dan Demircioglu is continuing his lap, but it does look like that. So he's going to fight it down to the line. And after that, both of the Haas pairs of Harlem and Cordon are going to come across the line. They have just started their first fast lap. And after that, we're going to see what the standings are after first couple of laps. We see that Deha manages to put in 1:32.1, currently the slowest lap time out there, but has at least put a lap on the board. Harlem is now in Sector 2 with Cordon a little bit behind him. So we'll just spectate Harlem as he makes his way around.
Yeah, one of the drivers who had come out on track much later and much after the rest of the drivers had. So clearly him and a couple of other drivers out on track saying their first couple of fast laps. One significant thing we might have missed, Benny Farbos puts himself in the top 3 second fastest. And Matthew Bassett, I'm not sure if he's a reserve driver, I could have missed it, but he is the fastest driver out on track currently, 1 minute 30.857. So that is the time to beat for the rest of the crew with just over 10 minutes left in this qualifying. Harlem only goes 14th fastest and make that 15th fastest as he gets dethroned at the very back by someone. But yeah, we see a couple of these drivers still come out on track now once again.
Yeah, we see that most of the laps are quite close to one another. Top 13 only within a couple of tenths. Few drivers going into 138s, quite a few drivers in the 39, and a lot in the 0 and 31-1. So a lot of drivers super close to one another, and these are the lap times that we are eyeing for. I think for a pole lap time we can go a little bit quicker, but the drivers will have to show some great pace. Not sure if the track evolution is going to be as huge as it was during qualifying last Saturday morning. The drivers surely will have to put in a few extra laps and try and see if they can improve. So far, Matthew Bassett is the quickest one around the track, but the first driver that is going to attack that is Andres Franco in the Aston Martin, who is now approaching the Las Vegas Boulevard.
Yeah, 7th fastest currently out on track, and he'll be looking to close in on his teammate who's sitting 2nd fastest. How epic it would be for both of them if they locked out the front row, much similar to how the Alpines did. But the Alpines, it shouldn't come as a surprise, find themselves in the top 5 together once again. We've seen this once before, last time in PSGL F4, and I think we might just see it once again from Joris and Jeremy. I don't see why they don't lock out the front row this time around. However, I am rooting for some of these underdogs. It would be great to see Matthew go ahead and start on pole, but it looks like most of the drivers are out on track. Some of them, I believe Kodor Ninglo is on a fast lap.
I think Coronel is now coming in. He has indeed just completed his lap earlier on. So now Andres Franco is going to start his 2nd flyer. Yeah, as you were mentioning, the Alpine pairing has been doing very well this season so far. Yours has won 2 races already and was on his way to win a 3rd, has picked up a couple of pole positions as well. So he really is a driver to beat this season. And after qualifying, where we're going to look at the standings, you can also see he has already gained quite the lead over his other competitors. So he's doing very well this season. I don't think we're going to see a lot of weather interruptions today. I think the race is going to be dry. Of course, it is dark here, but that's all good. Let's see what kind of lap he has at the end of Sector 1. Sectors, I think, are a little bit different to what they are in the real world race, so that's a bit confusing. So far, Andres Franco is about half a tenth quicker than his previous lap time, as he's now approaching the Las Vegas Boulevard. So now coming around Treasure Island, as it's called, you're going to come past the Mirage, going to come past Caesar's Palace, which the parking lot they've had the races before, and then down here you'll see Little Paris, the Bellagio fountains on your right. There's so much to see in Vegas down that Las Vegas Boulevard, and I think that was something that was also quite exciting for the drivers to see. Some people still disagree with the venue, even though it does have a 10-year contract now, and it will remain on the calendar for quite some time. But if the races are going to be half as good or as good as the race we had last time, that would be amazing. And Andres Franco now puts in the fastest lap time, so it shows we do have a bit of track evolution.
Yeah, and some of these drivers, we've not seen their best lap times yet, right? Particularly some of the two Ferrari drivers, Banzak and Simone. We got to see both of them compete for the front, at least of the front of the midfield last time out. And Emil Lundell, Elliot Norton, we've seen these drivers make passes that have been an absolute treat last time out. So I'm particularly curious how they do in this qualifying session. But it looks like it's just Franco out there to have set a better lap time. The rest of the top 5, the former top 5, head into the pits. Simone Violo sets the fastest lap, 1 minute 30.804. 6 minutes left short qualifying. I wonder what some of these drivers are thinking heading into the pits. Maybe they want a bit of break, and they're going to come out once again and just stomp on some of the other drivers who are setting faster and faster lap times. But yeah, clearly opportunity for some of them to catch the faster drivers snoozing.
Yeah, a couple of drivers went on to board their fast laps. There were a couple of tenths off. Yours was about 2 tenths off. One of the Alfa Romeos about 4 tenths off. So they chose for the best option, and that was to head into the pits and leave a little bbit of extra time to go into the final section. In the meantime, I see that Tope is on track. I'm not sure if he has started a fast lap. He has indeed started a fast lap. And the Haas driver of Haarlem is also on a fast lap. And yeah, Benasek has come in. Simon Violo has set the fastest lap time. I think Veer Domeen might still be outside, and he is the first one to go. No, he has aborted his lap as well. So the first driver to come round once more is going to be not Cordon N'Golo, but his teammate Haarlem. And he has invalidated, so once again we'll have to go back to Tope, who is still on a fast lap and come in at the end of the first sector. He is about 3 seconds slower, so he's also going to abort. So we're back to Cordon N'Golo.
Yeah, he clearly took his leg off the throttle there, out the exit of Sector 1. So yeah, some of these drivers still are trying to find the limits in certain parts of this track, and some of them trying to better their own lap times. I think there is Noah Carmen, who is seemingly on a fast lap, could be wrong there, but he is currently sitting 14th fastest, 4 positions off his own teammate, Javier, who's 10th fastest so far, but 11! The top 11 drivers are in the pits. We got the last couple minutes or so of short qualifying to go. So we're going to get to see them come out on track for one last fast lap. One last try at getting a stellar lap in to decide that grid box, that grid spot for themselves at the start of this race. 1 minute 30.804 is the lap time to beat by Simone Violo. He's the fastest one out there. And it's anyone's guess who's going to come out on top. So folks watching, if you got your friends driving, if you got your colleagues driving, you might as well drop in the chat. Who do you think is going to come out and take pole position around Las Vegas here tonight?
Well, in the meantime, Cordon N'Golo put his car on P2. We saw that he lost about half a tenth in the second sector, had a purple sector in Sector 1. So it really shows that he has a little bit of pace still in his hand, and if he can string all the sectors together, could go a little bit quicker than Simone Violo. In the meantime, most of our drivers are in the pit. We just have Cordon on an outlap. Or an in-lap, sorry, and we have Sparky on the out-lap. So he is going to be the first driver that is going to set that last lap time, and that will be do or die. So this lap will have to be it, otherwise there are no improvements. In the meantime, the Ferrari of Benasek has also come out, and I see more and more drivers exiting the pits. We saw in Hungary that 2 drivers did not make their final qualifying run, I believe. So it is important to head out on the right moment so you don't get stuck in a queue and you do have enough space to still go for a fast lap. We still have 2 minutes 45 left on the clock, so I don't think that is going to be too much of an issue. One driver that won't have any issues with it is Sparky, but he might have to go for some overtakes, and if that happens at the Las Vegas Boulevard, could pick up a little bit of a toll.
Cordon N'Golo might just have to head into the pits and not be able to set another lap time, so he is really betting on 1 minute 30.838 to get him that front row start. Or if he's crazy enough and if he feels there's a little bit of pace to go, he might just go on one last attempt. But yeah, as you can see folks, you got most of the grid, most of the drivers on their out laps, and not really traffic out on track, but clearly traffic out of the Sector 1, and Germany gets a 5-place grid penalty. I wonder if that'll hold. But yeah, things are getting populated out of Sector 1.
Yeah, this is one of the classic things that we see when the drivers are slowing down. Grid penalties automatically being applied by the game, which means that we will have to go for a bit of a lobby restart before we're going to get started. That was close with the McLaren. Oh yeah, this is impeding. This is impeding. So there is going to be a penalty. I'm not sure if that's going to be for Javier, but that was very, very dangerous with Sparky, and he is not going to be happy. But that was also close. Cordon N'Golo has retired, so he's indeed not going to go for a faster lap. But Sparky really held up there, and that is going to be a steward's inquiry for sure. Very sad to see his lap aborted, but this is something that can happen with so many drivers queuing up, and in a fast section, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, first driver, of course, out of this queue is going to be Elliot Noren on fast lap, followed by our provisional pole sitter, Simone Violo. So he's got himself a good spot, in my opinion. But some of these drivers, they're in not the greatest spots at all. They're heading into sector 3 as we speak on that back straight. And I think some of them might have just overextended their chances here, or I might be wrong. Regardless, it'll be interesting to see how both Elliot Noren and Simone Violo do.
Yeah, we're now on board with Elliot Noren as he makes his way around the MSG sphere. The sphere where they put up a bit of smileys, but what I found interesting is, if you see the sphere here, they banned a couple of colors, and then during, I think it was qualifying, they put up the Google Chrome logo, which literally has all of the colors that were banned in it. So, super peculiar. As in the meantime, Elliot Noren goes 17 thousandths of a second quicker, so he does have a little bit of improvement there, but still is about 2 tenths, almost 2.5 tenths off of pole position, so will need to improve quite a bit down the Las Vegas Boulevard if he wants to make it. All drivers have managed to start their final fast lap, as we now have the flags fallen. This is the final lap, and that's 2 tenths for Elliot now.
Yeah, Simone is up 2 tenths on sector 1 by the looks of it. Yeah, that's 2 tenths on his own lap time, which is the best lap time so far, but not purple sector 1. So there's another driver out there who's going quicker. I just wonder if it's one of the Alpines. But yeah, it's all to play for right now in Vegas.
Well, Elliot does go a little bit quicker. Did not have the great sort of exits. Benasek, who goes quite a bit quicker, a 137. But you mentioned that Simone was on a flyer. He's currently 21,000 slower. Let's see if he can make up a little bit of extra time in Sector 3. Will need to get a great exit. That seemed to be quite alright, but is it enough to improve for him? Jeremy Gallinier went to P2. Matthew Bassett, provisional pole 130.5. Here comes Simone. Is it enough for pole? It is not enough for pole. Does not beat his own lap time, so stays P4. Then, who else do we have? We have the Red Bulls. It's going to be Harry Nuns who's going to be coming across the line. He does improve a little bit to P10. So we now have Benny Fabos coming around.
Yeah, unusual occurring in Sector 3. Sparky's turned the wrong way and he was going in reverse, so that's the end of his qualifying, just shattered. But by the looks of it, Matthew Basket has gone fastest, 1 minute 30.597.
And that looks to be it, because Sparky is not on a fast lap anymore. He will have, of course, some chatting to do with the other drivers, because he was held up a little bit in his qualifying run just a couple of minutes ago. We see that Benny Fabos is in P7, but the first pole of the season goes to Alpha Tauri's Matthew Bassett, and what a pole that is, a 10th up on his nearest competitors. So Matthew Bassett takes pole, second goes to Benasek, then it's Jeremy Gallinier, Simone Violo, Corden Ngolo, Andres Venko, Benny Fabos. Our championship leader, Joris, in P8, maybe a bit disappointing for him. Ahead of Tope and Elliot Noren, who round off the top 10, and then the final grid slots. P11 going to Harry Nuns, then it's Emil Lundell, Javier Demin, Noel Carmen, Sparky, Harlem, Deha Dermichioglu, and finally Kuba Treziak, who did not set a lap time, but I assume that is because of track limits. We're now going to see if we're going to have some restarts, because I assume some of the penalties are correct, but we saw, especially for Jeremy, the grid penalty did not seem to be correct. So I think we're going for a restart. And Noel has indeed said that we're going to a new lobby, so we will take a short break in between. But a pretty interesting qualifying so far.
Yeah, surely enough. The extremes, however, for the AlphaTauri bunch. Well, Matthew starts in pole position. His teammate got short end of the stick in qualifying, and the lap didn't quite go his way and will be starting down in P15.
Alright, that means that we are quickly going to go to our intermission. In a moment, we will be back, and then we're going to look at the championship standings and some more information about the track for tonight. All right, and we are back. Welcome back as we are going to prepare for the race here in Vegas. Like we mentioned before the break, we're first going to take a quick look at our drivers and constructor standings. I'll take you through the driver standings if Zach Axter would be so kind to take us through the constructor standings in a moment. But first up, the driver standings. As we can see in the driver standings, it is championship lead for Joris Kruse, who has 40 points out of 3 races, 18 points ahead of his nearest competitors. Those are both Jeremy Gallinier and Simone Violo. Simone has third place in here, even though he has picked up 1 race win, but with the 2 podiums for Jeremy, that does put him in P2 for now. But look how close it is. P2 and 3 on 22 points. P4, Kuba Trzeziak on 21 points. And Toppe, who is on P5, is on 20 points. So top 2 to 5, very close. And then as we round up our top 10, we have Alan Bonasak, Elliot Noren, Emil Lundell, Cordon N'Golo, and Andres Franco in P10. With the top 14 so far scoring points. Of course, Harry Nuns being one of the standard drivers for Red Bull, but we've only seen him race 1 time so far, so that's why I mixed up a little bit with that early on. We do have a bit of a mix-up in McLaren, as I mentioned. Clint Racek has stepped down, but when these standings were made, this was only recently announced, so that has not been updated on there yet. A couple of drivers also absent today, but with a grid of 18, we quite have something to root for. Then the constructors. Do you have
overall. Yep. Over on the constructors, of course, topic every time we get behind the mic here at F4 PC. Alpine, Joris and Jeremy, clearly the ones to watch out for out on track, leading by a proper margin, 62 points in their favor. Of course, running second is Simone Violo alongside Banaszak in the Ferrari. So let's not discount these two as such. On their best days, they are taking that fight to the top 3. And of course, to wrap up the top 3 in the constructors for now, Elliot Noren and Emil Lundell, the champions of the midfield, at least for now, I'd say. Let's not discount this pair one bit. I think they're the underdogs in this situation. And of course, early days, as you'd reckon, the Red Bull of Kuba as well as Harry. Of course, Kuba doing most of the heavy lifting. Same kind of scenario over at Williams as well. Cordon N'Golo doing most of the delivery on the points front, with Napadowski close behind as well. Of course, the Aston Martin of Benny Fabos and Franco seemingly might be on an advantage heading into the Vegas race, so I'd love to see them jump up a couple of spots. And of course, in AlphaTauri at the very least, we know what's unraveled here today at Vegas. Sparky on the back foot. Of course, the super substitute in Matthew starting on pole position. In Mercedes, of course, Dea and Toppe finding it tough to really find their footing in this race. Toppe, however, we've seen him compete up in front, so hopefully we see him consolidate that for his team. Of course, Haas and McLaren have much more to do. Hopefully they can pick up where they left off and really deliver here heading into Vegas.
So these are all your updates that you had been missing so far, which means that we are going to get ready for the race. We are at least back in the lobby. We're currently waiting for our final driver to join us. So we're quickly going to move over to our track information and our track map, so you can learn all about the Vegas circuit. So tonight we're heading out to the Las Vegas Strip Circuit, 6.120 kilometers long or 3.803 miles, 17 corners, 2 DRS zones with a couple of iconic corners such as the Caesars pallets that we can find here. We can find Caesars Forum. I have my push to talk button on and it likes to flip with the overlays then. One moment. Now it works again. But yeah, Caesars Forum, corner 5. We also come by Caesars Palace in turn 12. We have the Mirage, the Palazzo, then we come by the MSG Sphere, which has already become a bit iconic. We have Koval Lane, which is our first DRS zone. Our second DRS zone, of course, the Las Vegas Boulevard. And finally, I already mentioned it, our final turn is Top Golf. Definitely don't forget that corner. A lot of interesting things we saw in the race last time round. That turn 1 was a little bit slippy. It's very easy to overshoot there. Up on the Harbor Island Apartments is the only way that I could name it. But turn 1 is going to be one hell of a banger, don't you think?
Yeah, surely enough. If it's turn one, if it's anything we've learned from the Formula One races, that turn one, heading into turn one, at least the cars starting on the front row, they're going to give us the treat we'd want. In this particular grid, I'd say the ones starting on the second row and third row are going to challenge for the race lead heading into turn one. I know I'm being audacious and ambitious as you imagine, but I think the drivers out there, at least starting in P3, P4, P5, P6, right? I think they're going to be hungry for it heading into turn one. And we've seen historically, the midfield is where the action unravels. And I think they're going to take it to the race lead this time.
Well, let's hope we do see quite a bit of action indeed tonight. In the meantime, in the chat, let us know who do you think is going to pick up the race win tonight here in Vegas, because our drivers are getting ready and we're going to head out to the Vegas race view in a moment, where we're going to have our main race. And we're going to see about half an hour, a little bit more than half an hour worth of action. And if, like I mentioned before, if it's anything like the race we've had on Sunday, this is about to be a banger.
Yep, all to play for heading into Vegas. And it is on track, not in a casino. It's what you long for, and I think we've all been longing for it. It'll be interesting to see strategy-wise. I think last time out, some of the drivers were caught off guard and really went on a different strategy, but one of them made it work. I don't quite remember who it was, but he made it work and finished on the podium, if my memory serves me right. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see even strategy-wise what they've got cooking up. Some of these drivers really do give us, or are, an oddball when it comes to strategy.
Yeah, I think we're going to see quite a few drivers start. Well, at least last race we had a lot of drivers start on the hard tires and a few starting on the softs. And I think there was one driver on the medium too. I think most drivers will opt for either mediums or hards here. Perhaps one of a few that are in the midfield that are going to do an offset strategy to try and gain some positions early on. But as we see also much here with the F1 23 game, as we see so much on PSGL as well, there's a lot of swapping and the end action is when it matters. But here's the start. 5 lights are on and we are on our way with a great start for Matthew Bassett. Definitely off the grid, the best. And look at that, the Ferrari's immediately dropping down. And down the outside, does that stay clean? It almost does. I think there was a little bit of contact with the Ferraris, but Nasek has dropped down the order quite significantly. But I'm not able to see if there's any damage for him.
Oh, contact between Banaszak and his teammate by the looks of it, but also contact between Tope and Franco up in front. So chaos at start, and chaos continues. Tope gets sent into the wall by an Aston Martin or Benny Farbos, but the race is on for some in front. Matthew holds on to the race lead. Jeremy will follow in second, and Simone Violo is running third. Somehow the Aston Martins have come out victorious at the start, and Banaszak along with Tope have been dealt the shorter end of the stick.
And it looks like Harry Nunn's also dropping down the order a little bit now. Did not have the great source of vaccine. That's a huge shunt from Harlem. That is only a virtual safety car? Oh my god. That was a massive, massive crash. Huge impact. But only a virtual safety car for that. Harlem is out of the race. I couldn't see if there was contact there, but there must have been contact. There is no way that in a flat-out corner you're going to lose the car just like that. It looked a little bit like Lando's incident that we saw during the real race. This was, however, a turn earlier, but there were more cars in the neighborhood, so I'm very curious to see what is going to happen up in the chat to see if Harlem is going to give any comments about that. So far, the best starts are up for Javier Demine and Dea Dermicioglu, who are in P8 and P12 respectively, picking up 5 places so far, but also 4 places picked up by our championship leader of Joris Kuze. And we immediately see a couple of drivers enter the pits. It's actually just one, of Elliot Noren, as Kupas also entered the pits, but I'm not sure what Harry was doing there. Dropped quite a bit of pace and hasn't entered the pits soon.
Yeah, he's missing an end plate by the looks of it, so clearly I'm pretty sure he intended to head into the pits, or at least will want to this lap. The virtual safety car has ended, and that is a fresh set of softs my apologies, that is a fresh set of mediums on for Norton and Kuba, and you can see Harry Nunn struggling out on track, locking it up out of Sector 1 towards the exit of Sector 1. He'll be heading into the pits soon enough.
Yeah, we see that Javier had a pretty good start because he started on those mediums instead of the hards. Kuba has also picked up position. Noel Carmen has picked up a few places from Deha Dermicioglu, and we have a yellow in Sector 2 that probably is because of that. Seems to have dropped down the order a little bit, but I don't think there's any damage to his car for the time being, so that is all good. We continue all on as we're going to move back into the main action. So we're once again on board with Javier Domin. Let's see if he can snatch away that P7 from the Ferrari and move his way further down up the order, because he is the highest classified medium runner up in P8.
And yeah, some of these drivers really, lucked out at the start, and we can see the fastest laps being traded by the top 5, and one of them being Joris. 4 positions at the start is what you want when you're leading the constructors, and correct me if I'm wrong, even the drivers championship as of now. They're on lap number 3, folks. We got a couple of drivers heading into the pits as expected. Harry Nuns heads in along with another Mercedes. That is Deha as well. I believe he's got a fresh front wing as well. So that's 2 drivers heading into the pits for front wings at the very least. But up ahead, Banzak in 7th, closest to Benny Farbos, and 2/10 the gap. He might just be biding his time before pulling off a move to come in a lap also.
Yeah, and this is also going to be the first lap where we have DRS, and it's starting to look a bit bad for Andres Franco. He's currently in P5, but 1.2 seconds behind the drivers up ahead. But it already looks like all the drivers, at least in the top 4, are within a second of one another. So when the DRS is inevitably going to start down the Las Vegas Boulevard, there we go. DRS is on. Let the overtakes commence. And the first driver to come by is Jeremy Gallagher, but immediately Simone Violo will also like to come by, and Joris is not too far away either. I don't think he can go for it. The Ferrari doesn't go for a full send either. He just picks up one position.
Oh, crash behind. That is the Aston Martin and the Ferrari who come together. Benny Farbos and Banazak. Oh, I think there was contact from the right rear for Benny Farbos from Banazak, and neither were apologetic to one another. Both had their elbows out, and that cost both of them.
Yeah, and I think we indeed have Benny Farbos now coming into the pit lane. Did seem to have a bit of damage to his front wing end plate. That is missing on the right-hand side. Ferrari has continued, but we saw in the rear view mirrors of the drivers who were just making their way around the corner, there was a bit of an incident there, especially something that is also going to be investigated later on. In the meantime, though, Javier Domin has come very close to Andres Franco now, has picked up a position because of that incident, and is now making his way to P5 of that Aston, as we see Kuba retiring from the race after also picking up a penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah, unfortunate to see 2 retirements so far, so early into this race. We're only on lap number 4. But back to Javier. Clearly, he's having a stellar race, 7 positions up, and you can see his racing line is completely different in comparison to Franco's, and that is making it work for him to keep himself as close as possible to Franco, trying to pressure him into a mistake. But a mistake, as far as it might seem, he's going to weave to the right-hand side of the track. He's going to be level pegging, but as long as the straight is into Sector 3, he's going to be the lead car, and he's up in a P5 well before.
And we see some more tussling up ahead as the Alpine driver is really close to Matthew Bassett. Joris was a little bit behind there, but looks like he's playing it a little bit more conservative and taking it slowly. Tope has also come by, and just Franco, as we see the drivers actually go for an overtake into turn 1. That's a very unconventional move to go for it, and the drivers indeed decide against it. So Simone Violo now in the lead, Matthew Bassett in P2, and Jeremy Gallagher in P3. But the drivers are going to be switching for the lead quite a bit, because the DRS straight down the Las Vegas Boulevard is so long that not overtaking is going to cost you track time. So that's not something you want, as Jeremy has to brake early there in order to avoid contact with the AlphaTauri. Little bit of spin coming out now as well, as they're making their way up to the sphere. Fortunately in the game, the sphere is not lit, so no cool graphics that we see on there. Perhaps that's something for F1 24 later this next summer.
Yeah, it'll be a treat for both the drivers as well as us here in the comms box, but that's only if things really did simmer down out on track, and simmer down it will not here today at Vegas. These drivers are putting on quite the show, I must say. At least the top 4, they are battling it out pretty well. Look how close they are, and this time around it seems like Joris might just dabble a move onto his own teammate. No, he sticks right behind, tucks right behind his teammate, but who does make a move is Matthew, and to follow through Jeremy as well. Simone left hanging, and Joris almost pulls it off but concedes and holds on to P4 for now.
Yeah, we see a lot of tussling for the lead as Benasek has also overtaken Noel Carmen, but what is interesting to also see is that Javier Dumin, who was about 2 seconds away last lap, has now come back within 1.2 seconds. So I think this next lap he's going to be heading within DRS range and joining in with the fight for the lead and making it at least a 5-way fight. But with Tope and Andres Franco and also Cordon and Golo being quite close to another, that fight for first between 4 is slowly but surely going to increase to 8 drivers, and that is what we want to see. In the meantime, we're going to go down to the midfield as Emil Lundell and Noel Carmen are coming quite close to Benasek. Benasek in turn is about 4 seconds away from Sparky, but the 3 drivers there are quite close to one another as Emil has to watch out that he doesn't crash into the back of the Ferrari there.
Yeah, so close to one another they sit, and you can see the drivers on the mediums as expected are quicker and have made up the most positions in Javier and Sparky so far. They're the ones holding up the rest of the hard runners for now. But back to that fight up in front as we come along Sector 2 and Sector 3, this long straight, we also love and admire, to say the least. And here comes this time around Jeremy along the right hand side of the track on to Matthew. Simone gets his redemption as well. He's gonna make the pass. Will Joris try his luck? No, he will not. He settles in P4. He wants these 3 to battle it out up in front. Use your ERS, clearly shred your tires. I will pick you all off when the time is right, is what he's thinking, I'm sure.
Yeah, we see that Emil Lundell and Noel Carmen have gone by. Benasek, also Tope, has gone past Javier Dumin, who has not been able to get within DRS range of the drivers up ahead. But as we head into our first DRS section of lap 7, Emil has to watch out for Noel there. But we're now heading into the DRS zone, and it's indeed Simone Violo and Matthew Bassett getting by. We have a caution in Sector 1, and that is for Jeremy Gallinier. Has he picked up any damage? I think it was just a bad exit out of turn 3. But he's dropped 3 positions.
Oh no, it's Tope. He spun around out of turn 2 and 2 or 3 in Sector 1. So that was for Tope. He's down to P12 now. So race just going from bad to worse for him.
Yeah, Tope had a really good start there, but now dropping down the order, 3 positions dropped in total. So far, Javier Dumin, who's picked up 8, and Sparky's picked up 7 places, are doing the best. Although Joris and Simone Violo won't be disappointed either, picking up quite a few positions and moving themselves into the podium positions for the time being. But we're going to go back into our overtaking world as we're on board with Simone Violo, as he's now going to be overtaken by Matthew Bassett. Joris is still quite some distance away. I'm not sure if he's going to be trying to go for it. We have yellow in Sector 1. That is Harry Nuns. He's spun out there. Does not have any damage to his car, so that's the good side. There's no safety car or anything either. I'm not sure if there was contact with Deha there, but definitely cost a bit of time.
Yeah, while the battles unravel up in front in the midfield, Cordon Inglo pulled off a stellar pass on not just 1 but 2 of the cars, and Franco got too close to the walls, hit both the left and right hand side of the walls out of the penultimate and final corners, and that is him heading into the pits after 7 laps on the hards.
Quite an early pit stop to make already. I think most of the drivers will want to extend till about lap 14, lap 15. And look at the DRS there. It's immediately Simone Violo who wants to get by and sends it down the inside past Matthew Bassett. We have a lot of overtakes tonight. I think if we were to count them, we would get past those 75 that we had in the race last weekend. And tonight we only have 25 laps, so significantly less than there were in the race last Sunday. But a lot of action out there on track. The drivers are mostly keeping it clean, apart from a few incidents. But especially up ahead, on top of the field, everything's going smooth so far.
Yeah, surely enough, some of these drivers are putting on quite the show, particularly the top 5. I don't think we can talk enough about them. here today. We're only on lap number 8, as you mentioned. I think things are only getting started, and you can see Joris has made that pass on to Jeremy. So next up is two of his opponents in the Drivers' Championship, as you'd imagine. But think about Matthew. He's come here today as a substitute, and he is putting on quite the show. Makes the pass on Simone. Joris is trying his best to close in. Will have to settle for P3 for now and keep it going. His teammate is not too far behind, so he has that help not too far behind as well. Level pegging. Simone tries to pick off Matthew once again, this time around along the main straight. Level pegging. Joris tries to get in. It might just be a three-way fight into turn 1. The lead car, AlphaTauri, out of turn 2 might just be the Ferrari. Simone leading. AlphaTauri follows Matthew in P2. Joris not too far behind. What a show we are seeing up in front between these three drivers.
I really like the lines that the drivers are taking into turns 1 and 2. They're going side by side, they keep it clean, and they manage to make the first sector interesting, which means that leading up to the first DRS section down to Koval Lane means that there's a lot of action going on, and more overtakes as we have yellow in sector 1. It was for one of the Ferraris, I think. But there is no incidents reported by Benasek. We see a message in the chat that apparently Corridor Ngolo has a little bit of wing damage. Let's see if we can see that. I don't see any wing end plates missing. No. But they're reporting that he has a little bit of damage, and he is able to catch up with the rest of the field. But seemingly not losing too much pace. So I think with a pit stop, I don't think he'll be switching his front wing either.
And the race continues. Go ahead.
There's more yellow. We had a spin by Benny Fabo, so he's dropped down the order a little bit around the MSG sphere, but he's picked up the pace again, and he's continuing.
Yeah, and the battle is up in front, continues trading positions once again between Simone, Joris and Matthew, and somehow from P4, Joris has seemingly been dealt the right cards. He's up at a P2 now and is inside, so P1 now along the main straight. Matthew might just, peek down the inside or along the outside of Joris, probably not, but that is a retirement, and that is a safety car, a full safety car. I wonder what unraveled for Noah Carmen, and I believe if we ride on board the Aston Martin, we'll be able to see.
But this is interesting. Most of the drivers up ahead had already passed the pit lane. Camille Lundell's picked up a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Benasek has continued. What? Alright, interesting choice. I would expect most of the drivers to head into the pits. Just Franco has entered the pits. Noren's going to enter, or Tope is. Noel Carmen has indeed retired. Benny Fabos is going to come in also. And I think Deha and Harry Nuns should come in as well, and I don't think they'll be hesitating about that. But of course, with about 15 laps remaining, most of these drivers will want to go for an extra set of hearts so they can continue it and complete the race on them. But not the easiest either. But with this DRS now, or the safety car now, the safety car is currently waiting to pick up the cars. That will happen next lap, but it looks like the drivers are being stopped a little bit. At least Andres Franco had to lift the throttle there with the safety car being there on the side. They can safely pass. I think more drivers are going to head into the pits, and I think that is a good moment for us to look at the stops. Emil Lundell's got 1 stop on board. Andres Franco's got 2 even, and that goes for the entire top 15. So they might be done with their pit stops already. And if we look at the tires, most of them are on mediums. Harry Nuns is on the hards. But I think they could potentially go all the way to the end on these tires, as I'm now curious to see what Simone Violo is going to do, but I think it would be wise to enter the pits nonetheless. And I do.
Yeah, well, the top 5 have other ideas, and so does Banizak, Javier, and Sparky, and as I say that, quickly proven wrong. Top 5 clearly listening in to the comms box and going with what Mitch just said. But Banizak is the one, going out on a bit of a left field strat, and as I say that, he's heading into the pits as well, so clearly pitting is the way, and pit they will.
Wait a minute. Oh wait, Joris was ahead. I saw that the Alpines were double stacking. I thought Joris was behind Jeremy. But Jeremy was the second driver in that double stack, so he's dropped down the order a little bit. So Emil Lundell, because of that, has picked up a pace, but he still has the 5 seconds for speeding in the pit lane, so he's going to drop down the order later on. Javier Domin is in P5, Gordon Goal now P4, but the podium round off at this moment by Simone Violo, Joris Kuza, and Matthew Bassett. Sparky and Benassa can get a little bit closer. So the gaps that had come into play after the first bits of incidents before the safety car, they are now going to be closed, which means that all the drivers are now pretty much on equal footing, equal strategies. But a lot of the drivers, at least up ahead, if you look at the tires, most of them are on the mediums. But Javier, which is good for him, he started on the mediums, so he can now go on the hard. So especially down towards the end of the race, he might have the tire advantage.
Tire advantage might just be in play indeed. But for now, at the safety car restart, some of these drivers have an opportunity to redeem themselves. Clearly, given the catastrophe that, not really catastrophe, but at least the chaos that unraveled at the start of the race for some of them. The likes of Tope, for the likes of even Benny Fabos thereafter, Franco as well. The Aston Martin drivers both were in the top 10, now find themselves outside almost of the top 10. So they'll be trying to make up for that heading into the safety car restart. However, the top 5 is going to be as action-packed as before. And I can't wait to get this race going once again. We're only on lap number 11, folks. If you're watching, make sure you drop in the chat. Who do you think is going to come out on top at the end of the race? It's anyone's guess, as you might have guessed. Of course, Noel Carmen's incident, I believe it was along Sector 2. And while I rode on board one of the Aston Martins running behind him, we did see debris all over that part of the track. So, parts of his front wing and the mix. So, unfortunate to have had 3 retirements so far. But on lap number 12, we got 15 drivers still racing. And we are in for a treat.
Yeah, so we've had 2 drivers crashing out and 1 driver retiring into the pits as we're now making our way around the start of lap number 12. Drivers are still playing catch-up, but I think at the end of this lap, catch-up will be complete. And that means we're going to resume the race in lap 13 with Simone Violo in the lead. We're still here in Las Vegas, halfway down the race. And yeah, even though the track's not being favored by a lot of drivers, we saw earlier on today that Joris mentioned like, oh, I hope I don't hit the wall 48 times today. So far he hasn't hit them yet, so he's doing quite a good job halfway through. But this is something that a lot of drivers will have in their minds. It's quite a hard track to drive. A couple of the corners are what they call blind corners. There's no really vantage points that you can use in order to brake. So it's not easy to drive if you don't have a lot of experience on the track. Although we saw in qualifying the gaps were fairly close, aside from Matthew Bassett, who was about a 10th quicker. And yeah, in the race we've seen a couple of drivers already being caught out by the difficult track here. Then we might see some more of that happening later down the line. Thankfully this is only a game, so we don't have to worry about the drivers that much. Although, do keep in mind, if one of the drivers hit the walls quite badly and they have their hands on the wheel, they could still break a wrist, as we have seen before on PSGL. So don't count it out. Even though it's just a game, you can still get injured.
Yeah, surely enough. Not something to neglect one bit, especially when you're racing on a proper simulation setup, which I'd like to believe most of these drivers are. Of course, heading into the safety car restart itself, I'd like to see that pop-up come up on our screen, and as I say, that safety car in this lap after all. Simone Violo will be dictating the pace ahead of the main straight, where he will surely enough take off and get the race going once again on lap number 13. And we've got only 3 drivers out there on the hard tires. Rest of the pack are clearly on the mediums, and we've got just about half of the race left. So it's all to play for, as I like to say time and time again. Emil Lundell, the only driver to have racked up that time penalty so far. I like to think no more to come. And I think Simone is going. And yeah, he is off. And he'll be able to get the race going already, and it seems like Matthew is the one closest. But there is tension in the midfield down the inside, perhaps around the outside. Emil Lundell up in a P6 had made the pass on to Jeremy, probably reclaiming his position, but they're wheel to wheel in the midfield, almost bumping wheels. Alpine leads, Alfa Romeo follows. Through sector 1 they go, and the Alpine holds on to P7.
But he has to watch out that he doesn't make contact with the McLaren there, as we saw more drivers dive into the corners side by side. Jeremy immediately trying to make up more positions. Of course, lost a bit of track position because of the double stack. He has gotten past 2 drivers already, now overtaking Javier Domin as well. So in P5 already. It wasn't P4 early on, so far only lost the place to Porto-Ngolo. But seeing that he has quite a bit of pace, looks like he can pick up more positions later on. But Nasek has also gone past Sparky, so he puts that Ferrari in P8. But his teammate is currently leading the race and does not have to worry about DRS yet. The drivers are coming a little bit closer. If we look at Joris, he is indeed going to go for a move. And this is the first time so far tonight that we've seen Joris leading the race. Although it's not going to be for very long, because there is the overtake by Matthew Bassett. So not a long time for Joris to enjoy it. So far Joris has led a lap of at least every race, with winning 2, was leading the race in Hungary, and now briefly at the front of the pack here in Vegas. But what he will want to do is be leading the race at the end of lap 25 and pick up the race win tonight and pick up his 3rd of the season already, unless someone else can snatch it away.
Yeah, look at these 4 drivers fly through Sector 3. It's an absolute treat to watch, and hopefully folks watching have tuned in just for it. Simone Violo kept it as close as he could to Joris out of that final corner, and you can see how close they continue to be. Jeremy not too far behind, and so is Javier on the hard tires, still within a 10, so it's an incredible top 5, top 6 in fact, that is. Tensions in the midfield, passes being made, Banzak up in a P8, Sparky getting his elbows out with the Aston Martin of Franco. They're banging side pods as well, and Franco comes out on top. Elliot Norton squeezes through as well. Sparky being dealt the short end of the stick, rightfully so. He's on hard tires, and that is chewing through his positions quite a bit.
Has to watch out that there's no contact through this fast section where we've seen quite a bit of contact before. But Sparky has dropped down the order from P8 now down to P12. So he's not doing so great on the hard tires, at least for the time being. It looks like he does not have the pace there that he would have liked and did have earlier on in the race. But we're now fast approaching lap 15, and we all know what that means. That means it's been a few laps since the safety car came in. So we're going to see some DRS action starting next lap. The mid-pack is super close to one another. That starts at Banasek in P8, and that goes all the way down to P15 with Deadar Michoglu. And also the top 7 quite close, where Simone Violo has dropped down the order a little bit and finds himself now in P4.
Yeah, but the action continues in the midfield once again. This time it's not Javier who's in the thickness of it. It is Simone Violo and Jeremy. They were wheel to wheel through turns 1, 2, and 3. And on that mini straight in Sector 1, it seems like if Simone has that advantage and has made that pass stick onto Jeremy, who's not too far behind. Right behind, however, Emil Lundell makes that pass onto Javier after all and picks up P6.
Yeah, but Emil there still with that penalty. He will be hoping for yet another safety car, because that means a lot of the drivers, likely everyone, is going to be coming in. And it means that he can serve his penalty and then fight at least for the win. If it stays as is, he's going to be dropping quite a few positions when they come across the finish line in about 10 laps time. And we're now going to move back to the front of the pack, because we are approaching the Las Vegas Boulevard. And that means overtakes, overtakes, and overtakes. Overtakes for everyone, as the first one to try it will be Joris, as he wants to get by Matthew to get the lead of the race.
Yeah, they are fighting tooth and nail for positions up in front. We've got about 10 laps left, folks, and there comes Joris as they head into that mini chicane out of Sector 3. And he is holding on to that race lead, but on the main straight, we've seen him do it once. Can he do it once again? Matthew Coroninglo, Simone Violo, who's going to dabble it on the main straight. But on the outside is what he's speaking, Matthew, right now into turn 1. He's going to settle for P2, but here comes Simone Violo, sends it down the inside of Coroninglo, and he is up in a P3. That is incidents in the midfield. Javier dropping positions, dropping like a fly all the way down to P13.
Yeah, this is turning out not to be the debut that Javier was hoping for. Had a good qualifying, a good early part of the race, but has now dropped down the order into P13. Also being on the hards, it doesn't look like the best tires to be on, because the 3 drivers that are on hards are in respectively P12, 13, and 14, which are the back 3 slots of the grid, as Dea has also retired into the pits after trying to go for another pit stop, but being slapped with another time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So he's decided that that was it for now, at least for today. We're now heading back onto the Vegas straight, And this time it is a turn for Matthew Bassett to come by Joris again. And we see a lot of tussling for the lead. The top 6 now within DRS range, but because that penalty for Emil, that means the top 5 will be fighting for the win here. So let us know in the chat who you think is going to win. Will that be Matthew, Joris, Simone, Cordon N'Golo, or Jeremy?
Oh, Banizak really losing positions in the midfield. Not something you would have seen from someone like that, especially when your teammates fighting out in front. Banizak not having it after that pit stop. He's not been having the greatest of times out there. He's lost 3 positions on the last sector alone.
Yeah, and that is exactly what you get. If you don't have DRS yourself, but all the drivers behind you do have it, you can easily lose 2, or in this case 3 positions. And that is not the time you want to be having. But now, within the middle of the pack means that he has a little bit of more to work with. And behind him, Benny Fabos is starting to fall with outside of the DRS range. So that means that he won't be overtaken anymore. The next driver who will have to watch out, though, is Elliot Noren. Because he is the first driver without DRS. He is in P7. So he will have to watch his rearview mirrors because Andras Toppe and also Benasek will want to come by him at the Las Vegas Boulevard in about half a minute time. Meanwhile, towards the front of the pack, we have Matthew and Joris in P1 and P2. They seem to be switching every single lap, and it looks like heading onto the straights that we're going to see the same thing happen.
Yeah, this time around, Joris, he's been very patient about his moves, and it's played in his favor. He's made that move all the way from P4 and held on to P2 for quite some time. He's been trading places for the race lead, as he does once again. Reaches to the right-hand side of the track, gets alongside and gets well ahead of Matthew. Simone Violo probably a bit too far to make this pass on to Matthew, so he's going to have to stick to P3. But Joris playing this smartly and playing this patiently on lap number 17.
Yeah, we see that Elliot Noren has closed the gap a little bit onto Emil Londell. We have a yellow in Sector 3. That is Sparky. Sparky is out and we have a virtual safety car. But for who of the drivers this is good for? Can anyone slot into the pits? I think it's just Harry. Harry can get the pits now under the virtual safety car. So if we now have a full safety car in a moment, that means the gap is going to be in a way that Harry Nuns is going to be coming out on top. So what he is going to want now is that we get a late safety car, because that is going to throw everything off the board and going to put him in a prime position to still pick up the race win. If we don't get a safety car, he's gambled for it. He was in P13 anyways. And yeah, this really is the only thing that he can try to do. DRS has been re-enabled, so we are back into the race, and it's immediately Jeremy with the overtake onto Cordon N'Golo. They are still side by side as Jeremy really has to watch out. And there's going to be a little bit of contact with Cordon N'Golo, but no crashes, no big incidents, so the drivers keep it clean. We're going to see much more action in the final 7 laps.
Yeah, surely enough we will. And as much as I am an advocate for chaos, sometimes I'd like to think that safety car isn't coming our way. Harry Nuns would like to think otherwise, but back in the front, Matthew comes back for that race lead of his. Simone Violo this time around will be able to make that pass on the race leader. Cordon N'Golo too far behind. So that is Joris tumbling down to P3 once again on lap number 18.
Yeah, so now the top 3, Matthew Bassett, Simone Violo, Joris Kruse now in P3, dropped 2 places after that long DRS trade, but we'll look to pick up some more positions later on. But we're going to be eyeing all the action out there on track between the top 12. They're all within DRS range. They're so close as Simone's having a look. Cordon tries to send it down the inside, but decides against it. He tried to do this in Hungary. That led to contact with Joris. Joris not being happy about that. And Cordon N'Golo later admitting that indeed that was not the best move. That was not on from him and did cause that incident. We have the Alfa Romeos also battling out a little bit. Elliot Noren has now gone ahead of Emil Lundell, which I think is also the best decision to make, because Emil has that penalty and Elliot could perhaps fight for some more points and pick up more points in the constructor standings and move Alfa Romeo up a little bit further. But still, top 12 now within DRS range. And Harry Nuns, I think, at this moment can only pray that something happens.
Yeah, sure enough, and soon enough, I'm pretty sure I'll be doing some quick math about who's going to have DRS up in front, who's going to be leading on lap number 25. Because if you think about it, we probably can approximate who do you think will be who will be leading this race, but right on lap number 25. But right now, Simone Viola will be able to make that pass on to Matthew. Of course, Matthew does not have that DRS, but on the left-hand side of the track comes Joris, and he almost makes that pass onto Simone Viola. That was 3 abreast along the exit of Sector 2. Absolute scenes up in front.
Yeah, we saw a little bit of a late move from Jeremy as well. Decide against it to send it down the inside of Matthew Bassett. Probably the best decision here. Don't think a Charles Leclerc move would be on quite now as we're heading into the final 5 laps on the race. But we might see some late sends towards the end of the Las Vegas Boulevard on lap 25. The Alfa Romeos have been switching once more again. Harry Nuns is starting to catch up by a couple of tenths. So he's going to make that a little bit easier for him if the safety car comes out. But we just have a few more laps before that safety car window closes. And that means that he's going to stay in P13 if that doesn't happen any sooner at least.
Okay, as far as my math goes, I think Matthew Bassett might just be leading this race at the end. Matthew, or I'd say Simone, it's one of them on lap number 25 might just end up leading unless Joris somehow creates a bit of friction and chaos up in front. So by at least, okay, let's throw math out of the window for now. But on lap number 20, Simone leads this race ahead of Joris and Matthew. Things are gonna get interesting, folks. Let's not discount Jeremy and Cordon Inglo one bit. They're in it as well.
Yes, we're now still on board with Jeremy, but we see that Matthew is starting to go with the move onto Joris Simone. We again almost see the cars go 3 wide there. That's going to be Matthew Bassett in the lead, 2 wide with the Alpine and the Ferrari. And the Alpine will have to make way, loses a little bit of time because of that, and that could spark an incident if the drivers are not careful. Oh, so close, spots 4, 5, and 6. They keep it needy now. Top A gets ahead of Andres Franco. But the top 3 remains unchanged, although Cordon Ingolo is trying to go with a little bit of fight on the Alpine. Does find its way on the inside, but it cannot go alongside down to the Rochelle Avenue intersection. And as they head onto Koval Lane, it's still Cordon Ingolo in P5. All the drivers still within DRS range. Andres Franco has fallen outside of that. I think he's dropped a couple positions because of a short incident. And up ahead, it can really not be much closer than it is right now. And look at Harry Nuns. He's only 9.5 seconds away now of Andres Franco. He really is picking up the pace, getting a lot closer. And we'll mention it one more time, folks. If the safety car comes out, he'll be up ahead. And Andres Franco picks up a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. That is one of the most obnoxious penalties I've ever seen. That's insane.
Yeah, something we might have missed, however, is the top 3 clearly have realized they can't play their cards in such a way that they're gonna bide time and make this pass on Sector 2 and Sector 3. They have to make the moves in Sector 1 as well if they want to stand a chance at holding on to that win, that opportunity of a win. This time around, however, Simone Viola weaves to the left-hand side of the track, makes the pass once again for the race lead. Joris follows suit as well. Matthew, having been the lead car, does not have DRS and will have to settle for P3 once again. But you do see these top 3 drivers getting their elbows out, not just in Sector 2 and 3, but in Sector 1. They're being more ambitious and audacious up in Sector 1 because they know last 3 laps, last 4 laps, all to play for. Here comes on the inside the Alpine pair of Alpha Tauri. Jeremy makes that pass on to Matthew into turn 1. He's the lead car out of turn 1, and he's going to hold on to P3 this time around.
And we see that Andres Franco has now DNF'd his car as well for speeding in the pit lane. So he is our 6th retiree of the race here tonight. We do still have yellow in Sector 1 because of that, but there's nothing that the driver should be worried about as there's not going to be a safety car following that. But we are starting to fall out of the safety car window. Will have to happen this lap, otherwise Harry's pit stop will have been in vain and won't have gained anything with that. And then we'll have, in essence, really, a fight between 11 drivers for the race win because they're all within DRS range. Only Emil Lundell will fall out of that because of his penalty. So the top 10, so 10 drivers are still fighting for the win. but realistically the top 4 will have a way to pass one another coming down the Las Vegas Boulevard, and you really don't want to be the lead driver in entering the last lap. You want to be the lead driver when you come round top of turn 14, sorry.
Yeah, and it plays out as you'd imagine once again. Joris and Jeremy, the Alpine pair, make the pass on P3. Oh, Matthew has followed suit. So Simone Violo caught snoozing by 3 cars, not just 2 this time around on lap number 22. How much this is going to cost him, however, is a question yet to be answered. But the Alpine pair now sitting happily up in P1 and P2.
Yeah, and what I can imagine, Joris now telling his teammate, back him off, back him off. A bit of Abu Dhabi flashbacks there, because the Alpine pairing is up ahead. For Joris' championship, it would be great if Jeremy drops back a little bit, but keep in mind, Jeremy is also second in the standings on equal points with Simone Violo, so I don't think he will want to do that. He will want to go for his own glory and pick up a race win here tonight. That would be his first race win of the season. Already picked up a 3rd and 2nd place earlier on. Missed the 2nd race as he was absent there. So the 2 podium positions has done definitely very well. As we have yellow, and that is, I think it's Javier Domin who's caused yellow in sector 1. Lost the front wing end plate, so has made contact with the wall. But there's no more safety cars towards the end of the race. So the drivers will have to fight for it on their own. There's just a few more laps, 3 more times that we're going to go down this Las Vegas Boulevard. And the last time is going to be the most important one.
Yeah, I'm genuinely curious how Jeremy is going to play this out. He's got half the ERS in comparison to the rest of the crew, and he makes that pass on his teammate as he leads this race for the first time. Matthew follows suit, of course, as you'd imagine. Simone Violo too far behind to make the pass, so he won't be following suit with the rest of the drivers up in front. But Jeremy leads this race for the first time ever. And once again, it is the battle up in front. Simone Violo this time around onto Joris. Almost level pegging on the main straight. Will have to concede, however. Settled for P4. Dives on the inside. Almost gets alongside, but will not be able to make the pass. I think there was a bit of contact, but we'll have to hold on to P4.
Yeah, we see that quite a gap has now emerged between P1 and P2 as Javier Domin has picked up a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He's also going to DNF as a result out of that. So 7 drivers not making it towards the end of the race. Jeremy's gap has been shrunk to 4 tenths. It's up to 6 tenths again. But he has a little bit of wiggle room now to play with in the final 2 laps. So that could well play into his cards and help him out towards the end of the race. As he is looking to pick up his first win of the season. Behind him, Matthew Bassett, Jos Kuza, Simone Violo, and Cordon N'Golo are still hot on his tail and trying to go for some moves and set themselves up for a move coming down the Las Vegas Boulevard for the last time. This is number 2 out of 3. And after this, it's just 1 more lap. And then we'll know who wins it.
Yeah, this is surely enough. Turn this race around. Jeremy's, well, arguably smart deploying of ERS to get him that race lead and get him that solid gap. But how solid is that gap? Because here comes Matthew Bassett for that race lead that was picked off last time around. Joris dives down the inside, he peaks, but will have to hold on to P3. Almost runs the AlphaTauri off track. I believe there was contact, but did not push him off track, however. Simone Violo now breathing down the gearbox of Joris. So things are getting heated on lap number 24, but Jeremy holds on to the race lead along the main straight. Here comes the AlphaTauri once again of Matthew. The Ferrari Simone Violo at the back. 3 abreast into turn 1. Who's going to be the lead car? It will be Matthew. They're almost level pegging Joris and Matthew. And it's the Alpine's nose up in front. And that might just have been the Alpine holding on to P2 after all. And we're on the final lap, folks. It is all to play for.
It is all to play for, and we see the drivers are using more and more ERS. Let's see what the levels are. 43% for Jeremy, 56% for Joris. Matthew's got 90%. That's enormous bit of ERS to still play with. Simone has 33 and Cordon N'Golo has 84, but ERS definitely in the favor for Matthew. But he will need to use that now, otherwise he will still have some left at the end of the race. So far, Jeremy has a bit of a lead, but I think Joris is in a pretty good position because behind him for P3, there's quite a fierce fight between Matthew and Simone. So that means Joris can safely go for a move on his teammate Jeremy. Jeremy has less ERS. They're already using it. This is when you have to make the move, Kyle. We're on board with Joris, about 6/10 away. But will the stray be long enough to go for the overtake? The ERS is now going to wear out for Jeremy, which means Joris is going to come closer and closer and closer. They make contact! The teammates make contact, and Joris crashes out. There's more crashes coming towards the back. Who's going to win? It's Simone in the lead. Simone is going to take the second race win of the season, but it's chaos. At the end, Joris is still in the inside. Is Joris going to do it? He does. He does. He wins it. How?
Oh my word. What a finish out of nowhere. Some of these drivers. Oh, Elliot Norton somehow gets himself up into the top 3. My oh my, I am at a loss for words, but somehow I need to keep going. It almost seemed like Simone was in touching distance of a race win, but it is Joris coming out on top, no front wing, and he wins the Las Vegas Grand Prix in PSGL F4 in season 35, if I'm not wrong. Oh my, what an end to a race that was, Smith. What an end.
I was not expecting that. I thought Joris was just going to go for a clean move into turn 14 and pick up the race win, but carnage ensued. I thought he was down and out. I thought Simone was going to take it, but Joris had enough ERS left and he wins the race without a front wing. It's so crazy. But he picks up his 3rd win of the season. 4 races only driven. He's going to extend his championship lead. And heck, I don't even know who finished 2nd and 3rd. I see an Alfa Romeo and a Ferrari, so Simone Viola was there. But it's Elliot Norton in P2. He picks up, I think he was in P6 before turn 14. So he picks up 4 positions in the final 2 corners. Final 3 corners. Simone Viola P3. Then it's Toppe in P4. Jeremy Gallinet, of course, one of the victims of that. So he finishes in P5. And then we have Cordon N'Golo, Benny Fabos, Benassak, Matthew Bassett, and Emil Lundell. And the final 2 positions go into Harry Nuns and, well, Javier Domin is still classified, but he did retire. But what on earth happened at the end of the Las Vegas Boulevard?
Oh, that is one for the stewards to decide. I'm pretty sure a lot of reporting is going to happen from the top 5 at the very least. I think there were incidents right after that initial contact between the 2 Alpines. Some of the drivers were caught in the mix quite a bit. I believe there was a Mercedes in the mix as well. Clearly, Matthew Bassett had a terrible time coming out of that particular incident. He found himself finishing P9. P9, all the way from battling up in front to P9 is not something you see every day. I'm pretty sure they'll be exchanging their 2 cents in the chat here on Discord. But yeah, something to be looked at by the stewards, surely enough.
There surely are going to be some reports into that. I'm still wondering if I'm going to have any of the sort of voice left tomorrow because we did raise our voices quite a bit there. But what a crazy ending to this Vegas race. It really did deliver on our expectations, so I hope it was as enjoyable to watch for everyone in the chat as it was for us to cast it. And in the meantime, we're going to take a bit of a minute, a bit of a breather, a bit of a moment for us to calm down, to reflect on what happened, seeing if any drivers are heading into the interview room so we can interview some of the drivers. Otherwise, in about a minute or 2, we are going to be heading out of the action for tonight. We're already out the calendar in front of us because next week we're going to Austria. But first, a bit of a recap on Vegas. We knew it was going to be exciting, but did you think it was going to be this exciting, Sataxter?
Yeah, surely enough, not the way I thought it'd pan out, especially even on lap number 20 when I was doing my quote-unquote quick math. I didn't expect it to unravel the way it did the last couple laps, and I'm pretty sure you're with me on that. But all I'll say is I'll agree with Harry Nuns, who was running at the very back of the pack amidst all the conversations the drivers are having right now. He says, never in my life have I seen something like that. So I think it's fair to say we're along the same lines.
I think so too, and we definitely are going to have quite a lot of chats about that heading into next week, as there surely are going to be some steward reports, so I have to see if the standings do stay the way as they are. But if they do stay the way they are, then yours is going to pick up the provisional race win, with in the Alfa Romeo, Elliot Norin, who was second, and Simone Violo, who came in third. So let's see if these results stands the way that they are. I do see a driver in the waiting room, but that's a driver from the F2 tier. So we will not have any interviews tonight, which means we're going to look ahead onto Austria, a track where qualifying is always interesting, where track limits are even more of a thing than that we had in the previous races. One of the tracks with the most track limits violations, but also a track with a couple of long straights, and where we could see more DRS battles towards the end of the race, just like we've seen tonight. So I think that's a track to be excited about, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if it's anything that we've learned from this particular set of drivers, it's that it's anyone's guess who's going to come out on top, as it is with every race. But this particular set of drivers treat us to a fantastic show, get the elbows out when they need to, and keep it as clean as they can heading into the last few laps. So yeah, I'm all excited for Austria and can't wait for not only getting behind the mic alongside you, mate, but can't wait for the folks joining us as well to return back for another race.
Most certainly. So yeah, as we see with the calendar, next week we head to Austria, then it's Monza and Singapore before we head into the holiday break. But after tonight, with 4 races down and 11 on the calendar, there's still 7 to go. And next week we will be back for Austria. This was it for tonight, folks. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And within a week, we'll be back with more action from the PSGL F4 tier here on YouTube. See you then.
Cheers, folks.
Desperately trying to hang on. He's got the inside off. Here he's through on the left hand side. Pumps the apex, gets all the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the ghost is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.